Today we are going to look at a different testing framework for PHP called PHPSpec. Hi, I'm Mark Bradley and welcome to Testing All the Things, a screencast in which we use live coding to demonstrate different types of testing tools and techniques. In this episode we are going to implement a Roman numeral converter. We are not going to use PHP unit, instead we are going to use something called PHPSpec. PHPSpec is a behaviour-driven development tool. Unlike Behat, which works at a story level, PHPSpec works at a spec level. Spec tests are used to ensure the behaviour of an object. Let's look at the code.
As I said in the introduction, we are going to use PHPSpec to create a Roman numeral converter. One of the great things about PHPSpec is the fact that it writes a lot of the code for you. PHPSpec's command line tool is very powerful. So let's start with starting to ask PHPSpec to describe the behavior of our Roman numeral converter. So if we look in the vendor bin, and we're on PHPSpec, now we want to describe a new class in the Bradle namespace, and that will be, let's call it Roman numeral converter. If we just run that, there we go. So PHPSpec has already created a spec file or a test file for us in the spec folder. So let's open that for us to have a look at. Not only has PHPSpec created a test or spec file for us, it has also written our first test. Our first test ensures that the class we are about to test can be initialized. So let's run that test. So we go back to our command line and we run vendor bin PHPSpec and run to run the tests. Okay, so we've got some yellow text, so let's have a look. So PHPSpec is trying to run the first test we see that is initializable, and it's looking for the class Bradle Roman numeral converter, and it says it doesn't exist. But already PHPSpec is trying to help us and offering to create that class for us. So let's say yes and let it create the class. There we go. So the class has been created. PHPSpec reran its test, and now we are back to green. Let's get rid of the terminal and go and look at what PHPSpec created in our Roman numeral converter class. There we go. So we've just got a nice class that's empty for us. And what we can do is if we get rid of this and move our class over to the right, there we are. So we now have one test that passes. So now we need to start adding our own tests. Now you can see from the first test that PHPSpec wrote for us, you don't use any access modifiers on the test functions, you just go straight into the keyword function. So function, and the function should start with it. They also, as you can see, use snake case over camel case. So it is initializable, so it, and we need to think about what we want our Roman numeral converter to do first. So we're taking Roman numerals and we're turning them into integers. So let's start with the simplest thing can do. It converts I to 1. Okay. So we've written our second test for the spec now. And now we want to start ensuring the behavior of our class is as we expect. Usually with a testing framework, you have to instantiate an instance of the class you're testing. With PHPSpec, it's a little different. The spec class is also the class under test. So in your test, you can just do this. And then if you call a function, so we are going to use convert as our function name. And it takes a string, which will be I. Although it looks like we're calling the convert function on the spec object, we're actually calling it over here on the Roman numeral converter object. Spec captures the return, so we want to check what it should return. So it should return, and it should return 1. So there we go. We have our next behavior that we want, or our first behavior actually, of our Roman numeral converter. So if we bring up the command line and run again, okay, we can see that we have one passing test, which is our first test, and one broken test. And this is where it takes the snake case and makes it a nice readable test name. It's offering to create the convert function for us, so we'll let it do that again. We're now not getting an error back, but we're getting a test failure. We expected the integer 1, but we got null. If we go over to our code under test, we've got the convert function been added. Let's change the argument coming in. Let's name that straight away. So numerals, and we can quickly fix that with return 1. Okay, now we go back to our command line, quickly run the spec, and we're done. So that was nice and simple. We're now up to 2 passing tests. If we move up through the numerals, we'll move on to V. So let's do function it converts V to 5. Okay, and there we go. So then we go call this convert, give it the numeral V, and that should return 5. Back to our command line. Okay, so line 21 is failing, or test on line 21 is failing. It converts V to 5, expected the integer 5 but got 1. Simple reason for that is that we're only returning 1, so we need to improve our test a little. So let's do that. Well, we can do, how about this, if $numeral equals 5, return, oh no, sorry, not numeral, there we go, equals V, return 5. Okay, and we'll run our test, and we're back to passing again. That's great. Continuing on with the numeral pattern, we'll move on to X function. It converts X to 10. So this convert X should return 10. Let's run the specs again. As we expected, we're expecting 10, but we got 1. So we need to go back to our code under test. Quick way we can fix this is else if numeral equals X, return 10. We run the test again. We're back to green, all 4 tests now passing. With these behaviors, we're slowly building out the functionality. We're starting with the simplest thing. We started with I, made sure that returned 1, and then we moved on to V, and we just currently working just with the single characters of Roman numerals until we complete that, and then we'll move on to the next kind of part of the functionality of the conversion. If we function it converts, and now we're up to L, which is 250. So this converts string L should return 50. Save. Bring terminal up a bit. Run. Okay. And we got what we expected. We expected 50, but we got 1. So if we go here, else if $numeral equals L, return 50. Save. Excellent. So let's rerun the specs. And we now have 5 passing examples. So there we go. Obviously, we can see a pattern arising with how we're implementing stuff. And we're building up this quite big if, else if, which is, it works, it's nice, but I think we can make it a bit cleaner. So let's do that now. It seems like the right time to do it. So we can convert the if, else ifs to a switch statement. So we'll just do that quite quickly. So switch on the numeral. Okay. And then it's case is I return 5. There we go. Okay, so that was easy enough. Let me just take this case. And case and L return 50. So if we save that, I think that can realign neatly. Yeah, there we go. There we are. So that's nice and clean now. It's much easier to read than what we had, and we can just rerun our spec. Oh, and we got a failing. Oh, that's why. So I made a mistake here. So I went straight into I, which is wrong. So what we want to do is case V is return 5. X, and I is 1. There we go. There we go. And now we haven't broken any of our tests. So that's lovely. And that's much cleaner, much easier to read. We can just tidy that up and we're done. We can now move on to our next numeral. So function it converts C to 100. There we go. So this convert C should return 100. Okay. So let's run our tests. And as we expected, 100, but we got nil. We can go back over to our class and we can just add that case into our switch. So case C return 100. Let's see if that passes. It does. Excellent. There we go. So our 6 examples are passing. We can now move on to adding another example. Function it converts D's next one, D to 500. So on this, convert D should return 500. Run the thing. Okay, so we expected 500, but we got null. So we can quite quickly fix that again. New case is D, and that should return 500. Yep. Run again, and we're passing. And the final one. So it converts M to I've just realised we fit typo-ish in the test above, so we'll go back and fix that in a second once we've got test back to green. So this convert and it's M should return, and it'll be 1000. Not there, there. Save. Expect the 1000 and got null, so very quick and simple fix. So case C, no, sorry, case M, and we look to return 1000. There we go. And we run the spec, and 8 passing examples. Lovely. Okay, so let's have a look at what we've done. So let's quickly make this more uniform. So it should be 500, so it fits in all your tests. Save. I'll just check we didn't break anything by the change. No, still 8 passing examples. Lovely. So let's look at what we've done so far. So we've created examples for the behavior we want our converter to have 7 cases of a single numeral. So we have I to 1, V to 5, X to 10, and so on. And that covers the conversion of a single character numeral to its integer value. So far, it can convert a single uppercase numeral to an integer. We now want to move on. What can we test? What can we look for behavior from next? Well, at the moment, it's converting uppercase and won't work for lowercase. So let's add a new example to make sure it can convert all the uppercase single numerals. Rather than create an example for each individual character, what we'll do now is we'll create one example that covers all of them. We'll do function, it converts all lower case single numerals. Okay, and we'll just call the function for each of the single. So this convert and should return. We'll just duplicate that down. So now we can just add it in. So lowercase I is 10. Oh, I've made a mistake. Hang on. Okay. Cool. There we go. Right. So I. So let's go back to V is 5 and X is 10 and L is 50. C, oh no, lowercase, sorry, C and L. So C is 100 and D is 500 and M, oh, lowercase M is 1000. Okay, so we can now run that. Oh, no, sorry, wrong thing to run. Let's run test, sorry. There we go. Okay, and it converts single lowercase numerals is failing on the first line. It's expecting 10 but getting null because lowercase I is not in this option. So we can add that in. So well, let's just neaten that up. So it's case I return 1. Save. Okay. Let's see if that works. Okay. Oh, hang on. I've got a typo. Ah, that's bad of me. I should have noticed that previously. So we got 1, but we were expecting 10 because there's a typo here. So I should have picked that up as the test failed. But anyway, we will go back and we'll fix the test and we will run it. There we go, that's better. And now we've moved on to 5, which is what we expected. So we saw that problem occur quite early on, which is great. So that works for us. Now I'm going to see if we can just change the syntax a little bit to make it a little bit neater. Can we do case? I think this works. V. No. Like that. So let's run that. Okay, that works. That's brilliant. So that makes it a little bit neater than our previous implementation of putting the I here. I'm going to put it here, but it means we can continue on doing this. So let's carry on with that pattern. So case x 10. We'll run it again. There we go. So we're now down to 50. So we want to come here and do here. So case L, save. So there we go. That's L should work now. So let's just check that. Yep. And now we're on to C. So case C, and that works. So we'll move on to D. So add that. Cool. And we're on to the final case of M. So case M. Okay. So we run that and we see, oh, excellent, all green. There we go. So all of our examples are passing. So we now have a working implementation for all uppercase and lowercase single numerals. So we can do a little tidy up because we found a better way of doing it in the first one. So we can get rid of this return line. We can take this case and add it up here. There we go. Excellent. So that's nice and neat. Well, it's not great because we've still got a lot of duplication. We've got this case I and I, case V and V. There's got to be a better way we can do that. Well, how about we make a simple refactor and we just say that the numerals, whatever they come in equals, we just string to upper, there we go, the numeral. Perfect, there we go. So now that's lovely and neat. So we'll check that works. Still, it does. So hopefully now we can remove all of the lowercase case lines. Let's just do a few to make sure it works. Still working, excellent. So we can carry on removing them. And there we go. Next line. And run. And excellent. Still 9 passing examples. So our string to upper worked lovely. Now that we have examples for all of our single character Roman numerals being converted to integers, let's move on to multiple character conversion. Let's start with the simplest rule of numeral conversion, which is when a symbol appears after a larger or equal symbol, it is added to the final value. So let's do some very simple adding of values together. So let's start with a nice example, a nice simple example. So let's do function it adds values where numerals are the same. That's nice and easy. Okay, so let's add a few different examples here. So this convert, we'll start with 2 i's. That should be 2. On this convert, so this is where it becomes interesting because 2 v's is 10, but also x. So I think we'll leave that as an example. Let's just go on to the next simple one and do, well, no, we can do, let's do 3 c's to be 300. So 333, that should be 300. 300. And this, and let's do a 4,000, shall we? Convert 4m's should return 4,000. A string. What's wrong? There we go. Okay. So we're not covering all of the cases, but we can make sure that's probably enough cases to get our implementation into a place where it's going to work and work for all cases. Kind of part of testing is knowing when to draw the line, and this should force us now to create, in the end, a kind of implementation that should work for all cases. So let's do that. So now we have all of those examples. Let's run our test. Run, and it's failing. So we're expecting 2. Okay, so let's look at that. So there's a nice easy fix to this. We can just do case. Let's do II, and that returns. What's it return? 2. There you go. Save, and we'll run this. Oh, bad me, typo again, added quotes. There we go. Excellent, there we go. So II, and that's returns 2. So we can move on to the next one now. CC. So case CC return, and that's 300. Okay, and that makes that pass. And then we've got our final one where the case is 4m's, and that is 4,000. Okay, and that gives us now 10 passing working examples, but we can see that this isn't actually a good solution to the problem. It fixes 3 cases, but we want it to work for all cases. We could prove it out by adding another test or another example here, sorry. But actually what we could do is just kind of do it as a refactor, which I quite like. So let's do that. So we know that these cases here are not good. They're not the way we want to do things. So let's take them out and have a rethink. No, that was very wrong. There we go, take that line out. Okay. Well, let's have a look. So we've got this bit where it's taking the numeral and converting it to a single value, but now we've got multiple values, multiple numerals to convert. So this won't work for that unless we do our we just continue writing every numeral combination going. But as we see, we want anything that's the same as its previous to be added to the value that's returned. So let's look at doing that. How can we do it? Well, if we split our numerals down, so if we can do this, so if we do, and we can loop over them then, so we do for each, well hang on, let's do, so they're all uppercase and numeral. Let's do a quick refactor actually of the naming before we start because it's getting a bit confusing. Now it's numerals, not numeral. And we go numerals equals split, string split. Oh, there we go. And if we just give it numerals, there we go. So that's taken our string and turned it into a number of strings. It basically splits each individual character into a new element of the array. We can now loop over each of our numerals. So if we do for each, and we give numerals as $numeral, There we go. Okay, so we now have single numerals like we have here. So if we move this switch in, like so. Okay, so now we've brought that switch statement in. That should give us all of our existing tests that we knew were passing to continue to pass. So let's just do that quickly. Run the tests. Ah, they're not. Why are they not? So we literally failed all of them. Okay, that's interesting. Bar one, which is probably the one where it instantiates. Yeah, all of them are failing. What have I missed? Oh, I've got a grey squiggly line. Ah, okay, yeah. Didn't remove the S. So if we remove the S, that should then, there we go, that should work. So we should just see, there we go, that's more like it. So we're expecting 2 and got 1. So that's working, that's great. Okay. But this is returning. So we could, well, let's move this into its own method. That's probably going to be the easiest way to do it. Just convert single numeral. So let's do a little refactor, turn it to method, convert single numeral. It's a private function, don't want this string, and that looks good. So let's just refactor. There we go. So we've now moved that into its own thing. We'll just check we're in the same state. We are. Yep, brilliant. Okay. So now we're returning the numeral, which is good. Ish. So we can do. Let's just add some improvement now. So we now need to be able to make it work for multiples. So dollar numeral. Let's do value. Let's quick value or total. Total equals 0. Okay, and then we want to return the total, and then dollar total equals let's do that. Okay. Okay, and we're still in the same place. So now we need to improve things. So what can we do? We can do, how about this? So we can do previous, dollar previous equals, let's set it to null. Okay, so let's do dollar previous. No, that's wrong, isn't it? Hang on, need to think about this. This is a bit more tricky. So dollar value. Yep. Yeah, dollar value equals that. So dollar total. No. Here we go. If dollar value equals dollar previous, then the total equals plus equals the value, and previous is set to the value. There we go. So I think that should now work for all of them. So we've got the value coming out. If the value that's coming out is equal to the previous, then yes, that should work. So let's do that. Let's test that one out. I think that should. Nope, we got a failure. Hang on. Yes, so we've got one missing case. So else if the value previous is, let's use it there, is null. So we haven't had anything yet, then the total equals the value. No, we can just do plus equals, it's fine, we've got the 0 already, so there we go. Okay, now let's run it. Does that work? There we go. Okay, so that's a bit neater. I'll tell you what we could do. We could just bring this else if, just tidy up a bit more. So if the previous is null, or the value is equal to the previous, then we add. So let's just check that I've got that logic right. Yes, I have. Excellent. Cool. So that works. When I described the behavior of the Roman numeral converter and the Roman numeral system, I said that if it was larger or equal. So we've done equal, so now we need to look at if it's larger. So we should add some cases for that. So again, we're not going to add loads of cases, but we'll just add a few. So function, it adds values where numeral previous, make it more descriptive, numeral is larger. There we go. Okay. So let's give some examples again. So this convert. Let's see, start off the most obvious one, 6. So vi should return 6. Okay. This convert. Let's do x and v should return 15. And do one more example. This convert. And let's take a big one. So we'll do m and d should return 1,500. There we go. Oh, man, let's remove the strings. That's wrong. Save. Okay. So some pretty simple examples there. Let's see how it goes. So we'll run tests. We're failing on our example for 6. So vi is not 6. So how can we do this? Well, we can, now that we've made that refactor in the last one, I can't really see a way to make it not pass for all of these. So let's just kind of make it happen. So if the value is less than, no, sorry, wrong way around. If the value, the latest value is less than or equal to the previous, then we add the value. And then we set previous. Okay, so we run, and that passes. That was a nice, simple, quick little addition to make those examples pass. They're very simple. In this example here, we've only got 2 character numerals. So we should probably add some extra ones and see if this works. So let's go for 7. That's a nice, easy one. This. So v and I should return 7. Okay, and let's take let's continue the example. Let's make 70. So this convert, and it will be 50 and 10 and 10 should return 70. And one more example. Let's do make it really interesting. So one last one. Let's make 1600. So that will be this. Oh no, actually that might. Yeah, let's do it. Just see if it works. Convert. So it will be M and D and C. That should make 1600. Should return 1600. So let's run the examples again. And they're all passing still. So we seem to be. The next behavior of our converter should be about subtracting. So if a symbol appears before a larger symbol, it is subtracted. So let's add some examples. So it subtracts values where previous smaller is smaller. So let's add some examples in. So this convert. Go with this first easy one. Let's do 4, so that should be IV should return 4. And let's just continue it. So convert. Let's see, what would the next one be? Let's do 45. So we'll do VL. So that should give us 45, I think. Should return 45. We can make 900 nice and easy, so we'll do that one. So this convert. That will be 900 is CM. Should return 900. Okay. Now I'll run these tests. See, we've got failures. Oh no, not pushing. There we go. Run. Yep, we're expecting 4, but we got 1. So rather than implement this, I'm going to leave this up to you if you want to continue playing with PHPSpec. So you've got the next behavior to play with, which is subtracting the value of the previous one if it's smaller. There's many other different things you can look at doing here. You could add some examples for some big kind of more difficult numbers. So things like look at some numbers kind of in the high 1000. So look at like 1972 or something like that. Examples we're completely missing here is what happens if you give invalid character numerals. So that's another thing to play with. So if you are interested, you can continue to implement these bits of functionality. If not, that's the end of the video. I hope that you enjoyed this quick introduction to a different PHP testing framework, which was PHPSpec. We will come back and look at other features of PHPSpec in upcoming videos. PHPSpec also comes with a different mocking framework called Prophecy. We will also look at using Prophecy for mocking with PHPSpec in later videos. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching this episode of Testing All the Things. I hope you found it useful. If you enjoyed it, please rate the video and subscribe to the channel. If you did not, please leave constructive feedback in the comments. If you would like to suggest something you would like covered in a future episode, please leave a comment as well. I'm Mark Bradley. You can follow me on Twitter at @Braddle. Or if you're just interested in all things testing, then follow @TestingAllThe.